Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. We're here with a special guest today. Misha Mansoor is here. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you again. Thank you for having me,
well,
man.
Thanks for coming back.
Of course, I love this place.
You've been here for a few days.
I have been here for a few days.
And we've been keeping you busy.
Yeah, but that's how I like it.
Good.
That's how I like it. I feel like we've gotten a lot done in very little time, right?
Right. Yeah, we shot some videos yesterday, and this morning you did 2 meetings with the sales engineers, and you're doing office hours with the sales engineers all day today?
Right after this? Yeah, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah. And it's all because you have so much cool gear.
Yes.
So tell us what we're looking at here. The main thing we're talking about is your new pedal from Horizon Devices, but give us a rundown on what you're playing through today.
Okay, well, this whole rig, this is my Jackson Juggernaut. This is the Pro Series, so this is the wonderfully affordably priced model, which is just incredibly feature-rich at the price. That is going into the Horizon Devices Precision Drive, which is on the front end of the PV Invective right here, which is going to a PV Invective 212 cab.
Right.
And all of these pieces, I'd say, are maybe a bit of, they're kind of sleepers because they look a bit more traditional, but I believe all these things are pretty unique in their own regard.
Right. You've really tweaked them to your needs, but from the perspective of the average player, there's a lot of features here that are really useful in all of these different things that you've come up with.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it just comes from a practical standpoint, from touring and recording. A lot of it is sort of a wish list kind of setup. It's like, if you could have your perfect amp, what would it have? Or I always wish there had been an overdrive like this. I was perhaps a bit disappointed that there wasn't. So then the next best thing is you just go and make it yourself,
Make your own, right. So there are obviously hundreds and hundreds of overdrive pedals out there. This is the Precision Drive from Horizon Devices, which you designed and have come out with, and we're now carrying here at Sweetwater. What's different about it from the average everyday overdrive pedal?
Okay, well, that's a great question because you're absolutely right. There are a ton of overdrives. I happen to own a lot of them because I love pedals and I own way too many pedals.
Right.
But I guess the simplest way to put it is that modern metal tone, and maybe not a lot of people realize this, but is actually the combination of using sort of traditional high-gain metal amps with an overdrive in the front. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that people tune lower these days, so you have thicker strings. For example, this is an 11 to 56 set tune a drop C, and this is probably the highest tuning that we use. We have 7 strings in drop A flat. We have 8 strings that are in F standard, or it's just a lot of low frequencies hitting the amp, and it's not, these amps aren't necessarily always designed to handle it. They're sort of expecting the frequency range of a guitar that's 10 to 46 in E standard, and then these guitars end up sounding kind of dull. So a trick that was used sort of early on, I didn't invent this trick, I think I became aware of it first with Killswitch Engage, was putting a Tube Screamer style pedal in front of the amp, running the drive all the way down, and running the volume and the tone control pretty much all the way up. And that would basically tame the low end and give you a little mid boost. You're running it sort of as a clean boost, so there's not very much gain coming from it, but sort of shaping it so that when it hits the amp, it can be a tight tone, and it makes it very aggressive and very pleasing for palm mutes and for notes to cut through the mix rather than being dull. But the interesting thing that I saw was that people were appropriating old technology, mixing it with other old technology to create a new sound, which is great. That's how innovation is. But I felt like this pedal, the Tube Screamer, is obviously not by design. It was not made to drive a high gain amp. And I was like, well, since I know that I use it and so many of my peers use this same technique, maybe there should be a pedal that's designed with that in mind first and foremost. And if there was such a thing, what would it have? Well, one of the biggest party tricks of this pedal, and one of the most useful things, I'd say, is the attack knob right here. So this is a 6-position switch, which basically allows you to dial in the exact amount of low end that you want. So over to the left here, it'll let most of the low end in. Over to the right, it lets in very little. It's cutting out most of it. And that'll let you customize not only the sound of your guitar and how it hits the amp, but it's a great way to sort of make this pedal work with different amps that respond differently, with different guitars, different gauges and different tunings, because the idea that you'd be using all of these different variables, but that the one sort of overdrive pedal would cover all those bases, it's kind of luck of the draw, and sometimes you go, maybe that's why you have 10 overdrives like I do. You're just trying to find the right one for each situation. And I figured out that this was going to be a really easy way to just use the one pedal, and it's like, okay, well, with this amp, I know I need to cut a little bit more low end. And with this tuning, maybe I want to get more of the stringy sound, or maybe this riff, I want a bit more of the stringy sound, so I'm going to bring it all this way to the right. And the other thing is that because this is adding a little bit of gain and it's adding volume, it adds a bit of noise too. So generally speaking, when people add these, they will also put a noise gate afterwards to eliminate the added noise. And I was like, well, if that's the case, we might as well just put that in the pedal after the overdrive circuit. So that's exactly what this is. This gate right here is a gate that's placed after it to eliminate any extra noise that the pedal adds.
Right, so it's kind of an all-in-one solution for front-ending the amp.
Absolutely, and it's the all-in-one solution for everyone who's into modern rock and metal and wants that sound, if you will.
Right. Let's hear some sounds. Why don't you show us what the amp sounds like without the pedal? And
Absolutely.
Then let's dial through some of those attack settings.
So yeah, if we listen to this, it's a nice, rich, chunky rhythm tone. But, listening on the palm mute, we're getting a little bit of that flub. If I turn this on, that low end is now tamed, and because of the noise gate, you're not getting any extra noise out of turning it on or off.
Right.
And the best part is, you get the gate that's catching everything, so you can get the really staccato stuff, which is a big part of my style music, and a lot of my peers like that, having that dead silence between the notes, and that's something that that was very important to me. So when we were designing this, we wanted it to be able to help people get that sound. I think that's a big thing that a lot of people who hear the sound don't entirely know what goes into that.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, sometimes I've encountered people who say things like, well, I just spent $3,000 on an amp. Like, I shouldn't have to buy anything. If you're spending $3,000 on an amp and you have to buy a pedal, you bought the wrong amp, right? And I couldn't disagree more, because, the amp is a starting point, but it's a modular setup. For some people, it's going to be perfect. But, kind of for the reasons I described, if you're feeding at different frequencies and it's sort of designed to expect, you can use simple solutions like this to get it to have frequencies that it can work with.
Right.
And again, it's all to taste. Some people may prefer that chunkier sound, but then if you need some riffs, or if there's some sections where you want it to be aggressive and you want those palm mutes to really cut through the mix, like this will do the job.
Right. So how much of a difference is there with that attack control when it's all the way to the left versus all the way to the right? Can you show us?
I'll show you. So, if we have it all the way to the left, this is what I'd call sort of more the kill switch engaged territory. It's very sort of rounded, and by nature of laying more low mids through, you actually get a bit more output. So, if we turn that all the way to the right, not only does it get tighter and more stringier, but you have less output. So it will be tighter on the staccato stuff too. And back there to hear the difference again. And everywhere in between, you have 6 positions. But it's funny because your ear kind of gets used to hearing it, and then you might be like, oh, it's not that much difference. But when you switch between the settings, then it's like, wow, that's pretty obvious.
Pretty dramatic, yeah. And
the one thing that unfortunately viewers can't see is how it feels. It definitely changes the feel of it, because feel is a very big part of the setups.
Right.
But it will give you that extra gain and that very sort of rounded palm mute thing, which you'll sort of play appropriately. And then for the staccato stuff, that comes very, very easily if you have the attack switch in the other direction.
Right, right. So I'm curious how much gain the pedal is really putting out. How much of an overdrive is it? Maybe we should switch over to the clean channel and hear what the pedal sounds like.
Absolutely, I can show you that. It's probably less than you think. So check this out. I'm on my split intercoil setting on the clean channel here. That's just the standard amp right there. Now if we use the settings I've been using here, we'll roll the gate back just a little bit because in these sort of settings we don't need to be doing that super tight gating thing. So it's just like a little push clean kind of thing. Now what you can do is you can turn up the drive. Let's throw a little delay on that. And if we go to the neck pickup, we can do something kind of interesting. So check this out. We have the attack all the way to the left, so that's letting all the low end in. You get this sort of fat, like almost fuzzy. If we put the attack to the right, you get this almost fake single coil kind of sound, because this is a humbucker, this is the neck humbucker. One other thing to note with the pedal is that by design, we set it up so that it would have a lot more headroom on the controls. So whereas a traditional overdrive would be maxed out, that's pretty much this setting. This is pretty much maxed out volume, tone, and drive on a traditional overdrive. But then you have that much more headroom. You will get more noise, you'll get a lot of maybe unpleasant stuff, but if that's what you're after, you have the room to do it. But that's why you probably won't see me turn these knobs much past noon.
Right, right. So there's tons of extra on tap there.
Yeah.
And like you say, a lot of that is just having that headroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
To not be stressing it out, if you will. Misha, thanks so much for coming in and showing us the pedal. The precision drive sounds awesome, incredibly versatile, man. Congratulations, really cool pedal.
Thank you very much, man. Thanks for having me here and letting me talk about it.
Oh yeah, come back soon.
Always happy to have you. I'll be here anytime.
We'll look forward to it. And thank you for joining me for Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more guitars, more amps, more effects, and we'll be making lots of music. I'm Mitch Gallagher.